Teachers have firsthand knowledge of the students. They are a very powerful key player when it comes to determining the level of support that students need.
Welcome to Principal Office Hours, where we swear there's no detention slip waiting for you. Just real talk from real principals who've survived everything from budget apocalypses. Welcome back to this focus mini-series on MTSS. In a previous episode, we were talking about the 3 tiers of MTSS and how to structure interventions across all of these different tiers. One of the things that did come up very strongly was the idea of running this whole process as a team within the school site. And with us today in the studio is Adriana Guerrero. She's the Director of Counseling and Social Emotional Learning at San Marcos CISD in Texas. Welcome back to the show, Adriana.
Thank you.
So today, we're going to take the perspective of the classroom teacher within this whole MTSS team. Now, the teachers are already extremely busy trying to figure out lesson plans, trying to pay attention during class to be able to get the classroom management sorted. What are some of the things that they are most responsible for within this MTSS process?
So it's also really important to highlight that teachers have firsthand knowledge of the students, right? So they're a very powerful key player when it comes to determining the level of support that students need. So they would need to prepare any data or documentation that they have to support, again, concerns regarding the student's learning or behavior. And so they would need to bring that to the table, potentially document in their RTI software so that they're ready to engage in that dialogue and talk about solutions to support the student.
So one of the common challenges that we face is for teachers who are in the class, they're familiar with instruction, they're familiar with classroom management. When it comes to interventions, that becomes a really scary word because I'm not trained as a teacher to be able to do these interventions. Shouldn't our behavior specialists be doing that? Shouldn't our psychologists be called in? Shouldn't our counselors be involved in that rather than me? How should I think about that as a classroom teacher?
I agree. Sometimes behavior can feel like it is difficult to intervene with. When I think it's important to remember that within that process, rapport is highly important. So while there may be other key members of your team, like a counselor, that student may not have the same rapport with the counselor, whereas they might with you as a teacher. So understanding dynamics and what a teacher brings to the table, I think is really a great place to start. Again, since yes, you may require support when it comes to tailoring some of those strategies or instructional approaches, but there are a lot of things that teachers already naturally do to engage students as well as to build rapport. And so, without maybe their awareness, they are engaging in some of those evidence based tier 1 supports. In academics, we talk about core curriculum supporting our students at 80%. That's optimal. That's what we want, right? Behavior is the same. If our students are coming in engaged at least 80% of the time, et cetera, and we're not seeing those differences, then you're already doing the work when it comes to those tiered supports and MTSS.
And I think that's a great point, especially back to your earlier point about this being a preventative framework. Like maintaining good classroom management practices is 80% of the work already. And ensuring that students are engaged, that they want to learn, that's part of being a good teacher anyway. And the part that sometimes adds friction to the process is this idea of documentation, because it's a data-driven process as well. And sometimes it takes forever just to key something in to the system that we're using. Like, how much documentation is really necessary?
I would say districts may vary as far as guidance for documentation. However, there should be quantitative, your data points, and qualitative, which are based on teacher feedback and observations. You have to have a comprehensive overview to include both. So I would always, again, to anyone who's listening, other districts say, certainly ensure that both of those markers are discussed and documented. As far as documentation, it would mostly consist of interventions or strategies that you've implemented. It is really important that you have multiple data points regarding that intervention, 4 to 6, really depending on the intervention used, the area. It may be that you're serving the student twice a week, right, with that additional tier 2 support, but you may not collect data on both days. It may be at the end of the week. So, really deciding on that data collection, data points would depend on the student's needs as well as your district guidance when it comes to best practices for your district.
Got it. If I'm a teacher, say at San Marcos CISD, who all are the team that I would work with within my school? Especially if I'm new, I'm just coming in, I'm not sure. Like, who should I be working with within my school to help with MTSS?
Definitely the administrator. Your principal could be your assistant principal. If there are interventionists or instructional coaches, they would also be great partners in this process. The school counselor, due to differences with emotional functioning or self regulation skills, behavior, etc.
So it's a really large group of people that you could potentially reach out to, and these are all there. This is all infrastructure to be able to help teachers to support their students better. And that makes a perfect segue into the next episode where we're going to talk about how teamwork makes the dream work. How does this entire MTSS team support the teacher, that's the front end of the spear, to provide this preventative support to students? Stay tuned for the very next episode. And that's a wrap on today's Principal Office Hours. Before you rush off to put out the next school emergency, take 2 seconds to subscribe. It's way easier than getting your budget approved. And if you like what you heard, head over to principalofficehours.com to sign up for weekly updates on the show. Also, the best compliment would be to tell your friends about us, especially the ones who look like they need therapy or a career change. We're going to be back with fresh principal insights and inspiration every week. Until then, keep being the leader that your ID badge says that you are. See you next time.